Welcome, everybody. This is Ev Zervadakis with the Holistic Healing and Healing with Astrology here. I have a lot to talk about today, and unfortunately, we're doing this during a full moon in Scorpio. So if you're not feeling it now, um, check your pulse and make sure that you're alive because everybody's feeling it. This is a crazy, crazy, crazy time. So, what we're going to do today is look at the chart of what's going on right now. And the analysis for today is right here in this wheel. And uh, what I decided to do is lay it out as a stage. So we have a stage and we're going to watch the live performance, and the live performance is let's see now. Let's see. I'm going to make sure that we could allow followers to join in, but I can't see it, so I apologize. Um Anyhow, what is happening is we have full moon in Scorpio. So Scorpio, as you know, is the sign that deals with death, that deals with deception, that deals with secrets. Any of this sound familiar to you? And to complicate that, also the Scorpio is a water sign, which is sensitivity, and it has no form, no structure. So it is a lot of emotions behind this full moon because it's in Scorpio. And you want to get the most intense emotions, we're going to go right to Scorpio. And Scorpio doesn't mess around. I mean, it has a stinger at the end of the tail. So all this all this going on is not pleasant, to say the least. So I've got 4 or 5 pages of notes, but I'm going to teach you today how to go through the swamp of information and get some clarity. I have never in my days seen so much misinformation on these social media platforms. I just want to take my head and contain myself. I had a background in medicine, laboratory medicine, work with pathology and diseases for most of my adult life, and that's my other twin. Okay, that's what I used to do, and but I always loved looking at astrology and trying to make sense of the whole world around me, and it helped me get through a lot of rough patches. So, anyhow, what I want to look at is all the different characters. So, we have in the backdrop, on the stage, in the curtain is behind us, and that curtain is Neptune in Pisces. And what does that mean? That means that the Neptune planet is all about deception. It's all about also spirituality. There's the shadow side and the positive side. Well, this Neptune is in its home sign of Pisces. Well, we thought it would get better when it left the other sign and went into Pisces. Well, it's only gotten worse, and we're stuck with that energy for the next few years. Now, all that does is, just in the backdrop of all this going on with a pandemic, and we want to have clear cut information, we have Neptune in Pisces, which means you're going to have to work really, really hard to figure out the clear cut information. What is the truth? What can I believe? There's so much out there, and it's a good thing that most of us aren't working, because it's a full-time job trying to figure out the truth from the fiction. And if you're looking at the social media, you may not be getting everything in a timely fashion. So that's the backdrop. The curtain is Neptune in Pisces. Now we have the props that are not really moving like characters, they're just the props. And I'm going to call that the Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto props. What does that mean? That means that we have these planets uh, are have this energy that is very, very intense because there are 3 planets together. So it's like putting three ingredients together or three people together. So those energies, Jupiter is all about expansion. It's also about the truth. It's also about philosophy. It's higher education. However, we have it right next to Saturn. Saturn is all about responsibility, duty, isolation, confinement, government. And this is all we've been talking about. And then we have Pluto. Pluto is the planet of, like the atomic bomb. You get rid of all the past, you blow it all up, you level it out, and now guess what? Now you can start the new chapter. Well, we're in the middle of the negative. We're in the middle of the destruction part of it. Yeah, after the destruction is over, now we could rebuild. But we've got a little ways to go. And we don't know where the destruction is going to end. We thought it may have been the virus, because the virus also is a Neptune Pisces. It's the invisible thing that has to do with the invisible world. And talk about illusion and delusion. Yeah. Who really knows what the virus is going to do? Viruses are viruses. They're part of DNA wrapped up in either an envelope of fat. So what does that mean? Do people not understand that a virus and bacteria, there's a whole world of them inside and outside of our body? We don't get sick from that, but we do get sick from the viruses that are pathogens. Pathogen means that you get a disease from it. I don't want to digress right now, but we have a lot to cover. So those are the backdrops. And so Jupiter and Pluto are in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn has to do with the establishment. It has to do with the government. And it's the so Pluto is a change in the government over the next few years, probably 2025. There may be a new type of world government. That's what a lot of people are talking about. But astrologically, I could see that happening. But it could be our own government in the United States or the whole world. I'm not going to begin to predict that. But just pay attention for yourself, because truth and reality are within us, within ourselves. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to try to clarify the misinformation and to teach you that astrology is a blueprint to help you go through the passages of life, the different components of life. So who's going to be going on stage? Who are the actors coming and going? The actors coming on stage, well, the full moon is in Scorpio, and I discussed that. The full moon also has an effect on our brain and our body, the electrical components, the heart, everything, because we are so much water. We have a lot of water inside of us. So yes, it affects our emotions, very much so. And if you don't believe that, you'll see like hospital emergency rooms and all that will get full, and the police departments get a lot of calls during a full moon, especially in Scorpio. I'll bet you there'll be a lot of homicides and stuff, but that's okay. Now we have two oppositions. One is the Sun in Taurus. That means they're opposite, so it's a tug of war. So that these emotions have to do with our lives, how we live. And also with Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the sudden, shocking actions or events that are going to come across our path. It's not over, folks. And I have to remember to talk about the retrogrades and what all the retrograde is about. So we have lots of confusion. That's the Neptune. We have lots of transformation. We have lots of death. We have lots of information. Well, who's involved with the information? The information has to do with the Sun and Mercury conjunct in Taurus. Taurus is the slow moving, all the senses, sign. So the information that we get is very slow, methodical, uh, and has to do with how we survive, what are the values, our possessions. Um, so when Mercury does go into Gemini, which will be soon, we're going to get a different kind of communication and energy. And pay attention to that. You'll see it come across on the media and the different ways that people communicate. So people are more stubborn with their information and how they communicate. I can't tell you how many people have called me up to try to educate me on stuff that I already learned and kept up with for the last 30, 40, 50 years. It's a little unnerving to have to deal with this, because I'm the type of person, when I've got a lot of communication in my chart. I have Mercury retrograde in Gemini, and I have a sun in Gemini. So that makes me a person that loves to research. I was starting to question my own understanding of the world that I thought I understood: immunology, virology, pathology, disease, death, what happens, hospital work. People are going into hospitals and they can't have visitors. People in the nursing homes can't have visitors. Wait a minute. Where's the advocacy going on now? People can't have advocates? What happened to our freedom? Uranus also has to do with freedom. So going back to the props not moving, I didn't talk about the Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius is a very good placement, because Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius. Aquarius has to do with freedom, has to do with humanitarian issues, has to do with the whole world. It's a wide angle, 20,000 feet view of what's going on. So we're so deep down into the details right now, like looking through a microscope, but yet we have to zoom out and look at the big picture, guys. The world is changing before our eyes. We are in the middle of a history. We are the history making. You want to analogize it to the 1918 pandemic? You can. But remember to factor in, we're not in that era. We have different technology now. We have more things that could help us. We have more confusion. However, we have innovativeness. We have new drugs. We have better hospitals. Now, getting to the hospitals, we'll talk about that later. But we can't compare this pandemic to the 1918 pandemic. Complete different times. And remember, the whole stage itself, the whole play is set in the setting of Aquarius. We have just moved into the age of Aquarius. And I want to always remind you that we're going deeper and deeper into Aquarius, which is humanitarian efforts, new inventions, technologies. The last time this happened was like in the 60s with the computers. Remember, back then, nobody had a personal computer. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have all this stuff that goes on. And then before that, we had the Industrial Revolution. So all that is going on right now. Hi, Diane. Nice to see you. I see someone joined us. I hope you all find this informative. If you have any questions, just let me know. So, getting back to all the details with the planets. So, with communication, we have a lot going on, because the communication for us to live with is coming from various sources. Well, it's our responsibility to figure out, hi, Len, how are you? Nice to see you. So when we look at how we communicate, what we gather from this communication, you better have an open mind and you better do your research, because I have never in my life seen so much misinformation that I have in the last 6 weeks. And I I don't know how to say this kindly, but I assume that people have the knowledge that I have working in the medical profession all these years, but I came to the realization that people just don't know what I know. And it's disturbing to see the general public become so manipulated, and to lose freedoms is just very, very upsetting to me right now. And that's why I said, should I or shouldn't I do this Facebook live during a full moon? Because I'm ready to go off. This is just too much pressure, and people need to look at the big picture here. Yes, people are dying, but how are you getting the death rates? I have never in my life heard so much miscommunication about the death rates. They take the number of tests performed, which is a variable. Not everyone is getting tested. And then, hold on now. What about hi Sophia, how you doing? Oh, love you, Soph. That's my daughter, folks. But anyhow, she this communication and misunderstanding with what's going on in the world. When you take a test, okay, the test for the virus is a good thing, but there are multiple tests. There's like 5 variations of tests. So you could take a test to see if you're active right now, or you could take an antibody test. What does that mean? Well, the one test with the swab in the nose and the variants of that will tell you if you have the virus right now. But if you go out there and someone gives you the virus in 20 minutes, you may have the virus 20 minutes from now. So think about this. Think. I'm going to assume that we're all capable of thinking. Erase, delete everything you've ever heard, and just think about this one little concept. You get a test, you're negative. You go downstairs, you go to your car, and you start talking to someone, and they sneezed. Now, you may have COVID because that person that sneezed around you is positive for COVID. But you just had the test 20 minutes ago. You were negative. Are you negative? No. You may be positive. So now, what do? Take another test? Honey, there aren't enough tests in the world to be repeating tests every 2 minutes. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to be patient. And that's part of the problem with society. We are in a time where we've had immediate gratification for a long time. Everything's disposable. Everything's immediate. You want something, you go on the internet, you order it, it comes to your door. Bang, bang, bang. Quick, quick, quick. No. The universe, God, whatever you want, Mohammed, Buddha, I don't care. I don't care who you are. If you're a human being and you're breathing on this planet right now, you're part of this. So with Neptune and Pisces, it's a good time to go to your source. Go to that energy and get the truth from there. Because you may not find it from talking to me or listening to the media or on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You're going to have to use your own reasoning abilities. Yes, there's going to be a lot of work involved. And that's what the squares mean in these charts. Work, work, work. So there is no immediate gratification, folks. This is a time event. Next year at this time, April, we'll have another discussion, I promise you. And we're going to look back and we're going to be able to say scientifically, you know what? This played out this way. That played out that way. Sweden did this. Italy did that. Italy had vaccines given to them for the flu that were not tested. All the variables minus a few, because nobody ever factors in God, angels, and stuff like that. And your own belief system. There is a science of belief. That's just my take on it. So I'm not for or against anything. I want you people to understand that when you try to figure out the truth, and the truth is symbolized by Sagittarius and Jupiter, but the truth is in the middle of Saturn and Pluto. So somewhere in the middle of this mess is the truth, but we have to figure it out. And with the communication that we're getting with Mercury in Taurus, with all these squares, with Uranus, we're getting sudden information here, shocking news over here, um, breaking news. Everyone gets confused. And if you're one of these people that only looks at one source, then you may find a rude awakening at the end of this. So at the end of a year, we're going to be able to figure out what approaches were good and what approaches weren't. But let's zoom back out again and see why this is happening and what can we do on the individual part, and what does all this mean to our freedom, our truth. I cannot believe that people, I understand we have a problem here, and some areas have a bigger problem, like New York City. God bless you, Soph, and may all the angels protect you and guide you, everyone up there in New York. But it's a very densely populated area, and we don't know all the other factors, but there's a lot going on up there. And to be safe, I would stay at home. So, and limit my exposure to the average person. But they have a lot of confusion up there too, because, you know, the other part that's confusing, and it also has to do with Capricorn, that's the government. I found it very interesting to see how many people don't understand how our republic, the United States of America, is run, and how people don't understand the Constitution. And they're making these remarks, saying, well, this should have happened and that should have happened. Well, if you understand the government, certain things can't happen. You know, we have freedom. So, yes, guidelines are set, but you have the freedom to obey the guidelines or not obey the guidelines. And now here we go with another power struggle. We have the Surgeon General, we have the Center of Disease Control, and then we CDC, and then we have the World Health Organization. Well, it's clear that the World Health Organization has had some deficiencies and they were caught. So that's a whole nother subject. What's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And but the problem was they had a job to do, and the job was not done up to par. So here we go. Now the virus was not contained quickly enough from the get-go. But remember, viruses do their own thing. And then there's a thing called herd immunity. What is herd immunity? I mean, I had to look all this stuff up. Well, herd immunity has to do with immunity. And that's when, you know, a disease will go across an area and the people will be exposed to it. And the people that get exposed will either get sick or they won't get sick because their immune system fought it off and they didn't have any signs or symptoms. Or they could get really sick, go to the hospital, and the worst that could happen is they pass away. So that leads me to the confusion going on in the hospitals and the directives, which is communication. There's a lot of stubborn directives. Hospitals are being told how to code because that's the system. The system in the hospital is all about coding. Well, remember, how you code a disease in the hospital has everything to do with statistics. Just keep that in mind. All right. So statistics have variables. It's not a perfect science. I mean, the more people you study for the longer time gives you a better picture. But, you know, you could study 12 people and there were emergency room doctors that published their raw data and they were censored. They were censored for publishing the wrong data. Well, that made me pay attention. I never heard. I have not in my whole life, 60-something years alive, experienced a censorship like that. I'm on YouTube, and I'm listening to a video, and then it disappears right before my eyes. Abracadabra, gone. This video is censored. It does not meet the guidelines of YouTube. Well, what are the guidelines of YouTube? You know what it is? It's if you go anything against the CDC and the WHO in your speech, then you're yanked from YouTube. Facebook also is censoring stuff, saying your information that you posted is not true. Are you kidding me? This is really, really funny. So I know what's true for me. And I want you guys to figure out what's true for you. That's where we have to go. How long it's going to take? It's going to take a while. But the awakening is Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. We're all here to wake up. We're all here to say, hey, look around. Why do you think the whole world stopped? It's to make us stop and look. Look at the world. Look at the sky. Look at the environment. Is it cleaner? Well, hell yeah. I've had people tell me, oh no, those are fake Photoshop pictures. Well, let me tell you something in my world, okay? I hear more birds. The other day, there were 50 female cardinals in this one tree. 50. I seen them. And people say, well, you're never home. That's why. No, I'm home. I love birds. I would like rubberneck to try to find a couple cardinals because I love cardinals. Okay. Now I go to the water down here. That's where I go for my little nature walk. And every day that I go there, it's clearer and clearer. The water. 4 weeks ago, the water was so cloudy, so you couldn't see through it 6 inches down. You could not see through it. Now it's crystal clear for feet. And that's only what? 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I know from the air pollution, I'll tell you another story. When I went to the Freedom Tower a little time ago, it was a couple years ago, and I was up there taking pictures. And I stayed there a long time because I wanted to take it all in. There was so much to take in. If you could go up there, make sure you see the videos that are the movies that they show. Very, very telling historical accounts. I found it fascinating. But looking out the window, I didn't pay attention to it as it was happening. But when I went back to edit my pictures, I saw the pollution rise on the floors of the Empire State Building. And you could see the pollution was down at the lower levels of the Empire State Building. And then at 11 o'clock, it rose and rose and rose. And I said, my gosh, as more and more cars and buses and, the fumes were going into the atmosphere, you could see the pollution rise and rise and rise. Excuse me. So when you see something like that and experience, it's real. At least it's real for me. So New York City is getting cleaner. Now let's see what's going to happen in the future. The world is going to change, folks. And that leads me back to some of the confusing things that I heard. The posting, I inhaled, I was wearing the mask and I inhaled too much carbon monoxide. Folks, you don't exhale carbon monoxide. That's from the exhaust of a car. Or, if you have something going wrong in the house, that's why you have the detector. We exhale carbon dioxide and we inhale oxygen. That's why trees and plants are very important. And if you come to my home, you see I have like a mini jungle here because I like my clean air. The more oxygen I get into my body and my brain, the better I feel. And pay attention to that. That's why it's good to go out into nature. Why does it feel so good to be around all these trees? There's tons of clean oxygen there, besides the green color, which calm you down. And there's another thing called earthing. If you walk barefoot on the earth for 20 minutes, you get that Gaia energy, the electromagnetic energy from the earth, and it heals. So there are other ways to get better and heal yourself. It's not just going to the hospital. I like to incorporate both the ancient modalities and the current ones. You get hit by a car, don't hug a tree to try to get Gaia electromagnetic energy. It might take longer and you might not make it. But I'm not going to take that risk. I will go to the hospital. But use your brain. And I'm praying that people start waking up and stop relying on sources that may not be giving you the truth, because it will affect your life. And if we don't all unite, we're going to have a problem. The other issue is Aquarius, age of Aquarius. It's all about unity, the collective whole. We need to be united. But some media industry components there, they want to see us divided. They love us to fight. They're haters. And even on Facebook, I hate to say it, there's a lot of hate going on. And hate is a very bad energy. We don't want to be hating on anybody. We need to understand one another. We need to help one another. And education is the best way. So back to the misinformation. We went over the testing. Now, the other test that will be fruitful is the serology test, the blood test. And what that will do is tell you if you have any antibodies. Now, antigen is a virus, and you have a lock and key. In order for your immune system to fight any diseases and stuff like that, to keep you healthy, there's a whole big process that goes on. I talked about it in other videos. However, when you're exposed to an antigen or a pathogen, something that could make you sick, your body right away starts fighting it with the white blood cells and everything else. So you have your own pharmacy inside your body, and you make your own vaccine, believe it or not. It starts with the skin, and if it goes in through your nose, inside your sinuses and stuff, and the tonsils read the data, pull in the antigens. They pull them in, and they make now the genetic codes in the cells to specifically kill those antigens. Okay? So that's how the body works when it's healthy. So people that are dying, what are they saying about the dying people? They have comorbidity. What does that mean? Another word that they flash around. It means that there are other diseases that the people have that make this COVID virus more deadly. Now let's go back in time into the AIDS era and the HIV virus. I was working in the hospital setting when that was going on. And this is all deja vu. I cannot believe what's going on. I guess we didn't learn a darn thing. But I remember having to put two gloves on my hands, the whole gown, the mask, hair covering, everything, because we were afraid of these patients, that they were going to kill us. Okay? And there's so much that we've learned from the 1980s to now. At least I learned a lot, and I'm still learning it today from lots of material that's come out, corruption and everything else, So be aware that it's not everything that you think it is. And then we find out later the double gloves and all that. You had to have intimate, shared body fluids, multiple exposures, and people then were getting it from blood because, when you get a unit of blood, it's from maybe 1,000 people. And then they wash the blood, and you're not just getting the blood from one person. When they say universal donor, they take all the O positive people, they throw it into one thing, and they process it so they could distribute it. That's the blood bank system. So my recommendation is, before anybody goes into the hospital, you better do a little research and figure out how things work. And with coding, again, if you're coded COVID and you're on Medicare, for sure, the hospital gets reimbursed so many thousands of dollars versus pneumonia. Okay, so there's some benefits to the coding here. If they use oxygen instead of a ventilator, well, you're going to get like $39,000 if you're put on a ventilator. But are they looking at how effective, the efficacy, another word, how effective is a ventilator? Do the numbers now. A lot of people are not doing very well on a ventilator. And I'll let you guys figure it out. That's your homework assignment. Because I'm done doing all the research. I know in my mind. But if you guys want to believe what you want to believe, and that's your business as well. The death rates, what people are doing, they call me up. Yeah, the death rate's 7%. I thought, my gosh, 7%? That's unheard of. Epidemiologically, 7%. It doesn't fit. However, what they're doing is they're taking the number of tests, people that died, and they call that a death rate. Wait a minute. If the population is 5 million and you only did 50,000 tests, what about the other million that did not take the test? That's an unknown. So let's get real, people. We don't have enough data right now to make any kind of real concrete information. But the other thing we need to look at, Capricorn is government. And the economy is really suffering from all this. And now it's on the state level. But how many states are going to go bankrupt? And what is that going to mean? So between now and June, we're going to have 6 planets, guys. 6 planets go retrograde. Now, do you remember what a retrograde is? Retrograde is when the planets start going back over the territory they just came back from. It's a rewind. So they're spinning forward, they slow it down, and then start spinning backwards. So what are the planets that are going backwards? We have, where's my list? We have Pluto's gone backwards, okay? So now we're going to get hit again with more of this death, more transformation in more areas. A lot to do with government because it's in Capricorn. Venus is going to go retrograde. Jupiter is going to go retrograde. Saturn's going to go retrograde next. And then Pluto is retrograde. And we also have, I believe, so we're going to have 6 planets retrograde. Retrograde is when you reset, rewind, review, reestablish all that energy. It's going in. The energy is going in. We're going to have to look within. We're not going to get the answers from the outside. We're all going to have to collectively make individual choices how we're going to live, how we're going to pay our bills. There's 33 million people right now not working. Some of them are getting the checks, unemployment, some are not. Some people are spending their money wisely. Some people have saved the 6 months of emergency fund. Some people have not. Now they're saying, well, let's pay all the people, their rent because they didn't have anything saved up. They had other priorities. So it's a time to look at your priorities. It's a time to look at your lifestyle. This pause has made us really reflect and say, hey, do I really like my job? Hey, do I really like that commute going on the highway every day? Hey, if I'm working from home now, do I ever need to go back into the office? Maybe I could just go once a week. Hey, I really like my kids at home most of the time. Hey, they're learning more at home with me homeschooling them than they learned in school. There's a lot of revelations. That's also Aquarius. So we're going to learn a lot. This time is meant for us to stop, look, reflect, rethink, and see what we're supposed to be doing. How do we want the rest of our lives to unfold? We may not even be able to travel unless we get vaccinated. That's a freedom issue. We took for granted a lot of things. Our immediate gratification, going to the grocery store whenever we wanted, getting that toilet paper whenever we wanted. But the world lost its mind, and everybody bought every roll of toilet paper they could find. Now tell me you're not stressed out. It's a proven fact that when you're stressed, you don't think straight. That's clear evidence. People are wearing masks. Fine. You want to protect yourself or other people for the droplets not to go into the environment? Go ahead. That's what hospital workers do when they're doing surgery. We don't want to contaminate the field. We don't want to contaminate the people that are being cut wide open with my germs and my breathing, because they're open. They're very susceptible. However, to protect ourselves from a virus that is so tiny, it would go through all the layers unless you're wearing an N95 mask. But if you haven't worn an N95 mask to breathe through it and you have COPD, you're going to pass out. It's very difficult to breathe through that mask because of the filtration system. But it will protect you that's wearing the mask from a virus. But so will your immune system. So you're going to have to make some very hard decisions. And now we got people hating people that aren't wearing masks. Why? It's a recommendation. If I'm not afraid of being sneezed on, as long as I keep my 6 feet distance apart, that's my freedom. I'm not going to, if you're afraid that you're going to get sick from the environment, then you need to stay in. That's what they're talking about. But the government can only make recommendations. Other governments could lock you in the house and let you die in the house and rot. That's communism. Socialism's a little strict. You have to have permits to walk out and this and that. Let's see what that mitigation will do as they're starting to open up. The truth of the matter is, no one knows the real answers. We can only speculate. So the healthcare system has a multitude of issues right now. The people that have been working really hard and going in because there aren't enough elective surgeries, guess what? They're furloughed. You know what that means? They get to go home. Do they all get a paycheck? Not really. It depends, okay? It's complicated. So a lot of innocent people are being hurt in many, many, many ways. I won't even go into the psychological components of being locked up in isolation in your house. They do that in prison. When you do something really, really bad, you're in solitary confinement because they know what it does to the human psyche. So folks, use your judgment, don't make yourself crazy in the house. Get some fresh air. Vitamin D has been proven now to be very good. The sunshine deactivates the virus. Go outside, get some sunshine. And UV light is sunshine. If you feel that you want to decontaminate something, put it out in the sunshine a few minutes, okay? But don't forget, when we kill all the germs and we're not getting all the germs in us, then our body has nothing to read. So we will have no immunity to those particular germs. And by the way, we have millions and millions of germs and viruses in our body right now. Why aren't we dying from it? Because they're opportunistic. They live with us. They're symbiotic. We live together in harmony. Okay? So just use your head. Understand there's a lot of information that's being juggled around, and they give you 5 truths and 17 lies. And it's up to you to decipher and figure out what's the truth and what's a lie. Good luck, because that's a full-time job. So The protocols too in the hospitals are changing by the minute. Do this, don't do that, put them on a ventilator, no, don't put them on a ventilator. And there's a lot of ethical issues right now at bay, and a lot of doctors are coming out and speaking out, and they're very angry. Some of them, they're very upset, they're disillusioned. Some of these new doctors that came out in the field, they were taught one thing, they understood one thing, and then we get hit with this pandemic where people are dying like by the droves in these big cities. That's a lot for a human being emotionally to digest. And then you say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be doing A, B, C, and D protocol. But people are speaking out. But why wouldn't they speak out? People ask me, well, if it's the truth, they would speak out. Well, let me ask you, if you're $400,000, $300,000, $200,000 in debt, student loan, because you went to school for 12 years to be a doctor, and now you had to buy your own clinic, or you had to buy, into a facility, that's more debt. And then you had to get the big house and the car, and you have a family and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids. Okay? You have expenses right now. Are you going to give up your career right now to stand up for the truth? Really? So, I've been talking long enough. Hi, Denise. Nice to see you. And I told you all it was going to be a very, very long video. But also, the Surgeon General has changed the protocol. You didn't see that anywhere on the news. It's very difficult to find it on the internet. But even the Surgeon General is making changes on the statements. So changes are happening every 2 minutes. And the card for today is all changes are easy for me to make. All changes are easy for me to make. And the moment that I am willing to change, the universe begins to help me. It brings me whatever I need. So that is what I'm going to leave you with today. I thank you so much for all your patience. And the next time we talk, we're going to, I promise you, go into the interpretation. Hi, Pauline. Hi. Oh, I didn't see you. I had to scroll down. I hope you're all well up there in Connecticut. But I want you guys to be the rebels. I want you guys to stick up for yourselves. I want you guys to do a little of the work and look at your astrology charts and see how this is affecting you, and learn how to process data. And I love you all, and you take care, and let me know what you want to hear about next. Take care. Bye-bye. And this is the end of this live video.